Yeah. Hello. Still, again, okay, well, thank you. Whew, you feel the spirit. Yeah, I don't know that I need to talk now. That's, but I'm gonna. So good morning, everybody. Thank you, Thomas. Thank you so much. Yeah, we'll just go with this. Not sure what's up with this. Okay. All right. So, for those that don't know me, my name is Reverend Edward Trout. My pronouns are he, him. I am passionate about empowering and uplifting others. I'm also passionate about creativity and the arts, and I'm an ordained interfaith minister through One Spirit Seminary out of New York, and it is my distinct pleasure to be speaking here this morning. I'm going to start with what will seem an odd and tangential story. About 4.5 years ago, I got a chance to perform at Beef and Boards, and it was coming out of COVID. It was their first main stage show back out of COVID. The show was Smoke on the Mountain. I know some people here came to see that production. And if you're not familiar with the show, it's a small cast, about 7 people that all have to sing and play their own instruments, and in fact play multiple instruments. My primary instrument was upright bass. I also played guitar and I played banjo, and studied up on mandolin just in case. So during the run of the show, it was a great show. We were still wearing clear masks, and it was all the COVID protocols, so we in theory would be changing instruments, trading instruments back and forth, but because of COVID, we all had to have our own instrument. So there were 2 basses, there were 3 guitars, we all shared these things. And in the middle of a performance, this was a 2-show day, the first performance of the day, there was a number where it's just the men performing, and I'm out there on my bass, and I hear a ka-boing. The A string on my bass had completely broken. Not snapped, but unraveled. So I'm in the middle of a number and trying to finish out, and it's like, well, okay, I'm only using that string for like 50% of my notes in this song, so let me bounce around and see what I can do, jump it up the octave or move around. And once we were done with that number, I kind of looked to Paul, who was playing my brother, and he had his bass, and he's like, can I? He said, yeah, just use my bass. So it did get restrung for later, but for the rest of that show, I used his bass. The reason I bring that up is I was reading an article that talked about a very similar incident, and it brought that back to mind for me. The imperfections, right, of here we are doing this show that's supposed to be this perfectly crafted thing, and the unexpected will happen. Microphones will have all kinds of sound. Things that you're not anticipating will occur. So I was reading this article by Matt Johnson, who's a PhD, and the article was called Wabi Sabi and the Psychology of Imperfection. And I'm curious, who is familiar with the term wabi sabi? I've got 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so for those that are not familiar, I'm going to sum it up a little bluntly. It's a lot more complex than this, but wabi sabi is essentially the beauty of the imperfection. That sort of encapsulates it. It's a lot more than that, but that sort of helps get to it. And he was starting with the story of Yo-Yo Ma, the cellist, the famed cellist, who was in a packed concert house and was in the middle of a performance, and a string snapped loudly, and like the audience all just, and of course he takes the cello back, restrings, comes back out, restarts. And first of all, if you know anything about stringed instruments, restringing and trying to keep that string in tune for the rest of a performance is a horrible thing to try to do. So obviously he is a major professional. But the other thing was that he said sometimes strings break. And when a string breaks at the beginning of the performance, I think I'm in heaven. After the string breaks, everybody gasps. You go backstage, you put on a new string, and because something untoward has happened, for the rest of the evening, you can do no wrong. Right? It's like, well, you started with a snapped string. It can't get worse than that. And I realized in reading all of that, it's like, that is one of the reasons why I love improvisational work so much, because it's inherently flawed. You're not going to spontaneously create off the top of your head the absolutely perfect thing, but you can get it pretty darn close sometimes, and that's when it's amazing. And then when it's not, when things fall short in improv work, it's entertaining because, of course, didn't work perfectly. We're making it up, right? It's like, oh, I have always embraced that element of like wabi-sabi. And one thing I often say to improv students, by the way, is you're not going to break it. You're not going to break improv. You might do it badly. Okay. It will survive and you will survive. So that psychology around wabi-sabi is that like really blessing those imperfections. Many of us are familiar with the art of kintsugi, the Japanese art. I believe there's a slide there, yeah, where a piece gets broken, and what they do is they mend the piece, highlighting it with precious metals, so that you see the breaks, you see the damage, you see the history. And it's not an intentional break. These are things that fell or got chipped or whatever that have been now repaired in a way that highlights those imperfections. There's a saying about, I wish I'd thought of this earlier. There's a saying about healing, the light gets through where the breaks are, right? Wherever we are broken, that's how the light gets through. So that concept of kintsugi and of wabi-sabi, that everything is in flux, everything in a moment's time, anything can break, anything can go awry, and we can still see the beauty in that. We can still find the perfection in the imperfection. The world is in flux constantly. Our lives are in flux constantly. Our relationships are in flux constantly. Our bodies are in flux constantly. Our bodies do this miraculous job of fighting off a whole host of things that we deal with that our bodies never even warn us about. It's like, oh yeah, you defeated this thing that was trying to take hold. You shed off these cancer cells you didn't know were growing. Our bodies do this so frequently, all the time. And the thing is, they do it better when we are in a better mood, when we are optimistic, when we are uplifted. Our bodies are better capable of taking care of us. Life is a gift that is given to us from the divine, right? We don't earn it. It's just a gift. And the thing is, we go to doctors. I very much appreciate doctors. For those of you that know us, Michael and I both train medical professionals throughout the week, medical students, nursing students, even full-fledged doctors sometimes. We very much believe in the medical profession, but I'm going to remind you, doctors don't heal you. Doctors may make it easier for you to heal, or sometimes make it harder for you to heal, but the doctor does not do the healing. The medications don't do the healing. A therapist doesn't do the healing. That healing all comes from within. The outside forces can only make it either easier or harder for you to heal. You have to heal from within. And do miracles happen? Of course they do. Raise your hand if you have experienced what you would consider a miracle in your life. Look at this room. Miracles happen, but every day. But so often, I believe it's Course in Miracles that defines a miracle as a change in perception, right? The circumstances may only change when the perception changes. That's the miracle, that we can change our perception. Speaking of A Course in Miracles, Robert Perry, who's the lead editor of the complete and annotated edition of A Course in Miracles, he had written a summary of a course he had given, or at least a workshop, that was on A Course in Miracles and self-esteem. So remember I had talked about how our bodies do a much better job of taking care of us the way they're supposed to when we feel better about ourselves, when we are upheld ourselves. So self-esteem is part of that. And in this, he talks about the 5 selves. So the first self, and this one is probably the most familiar to most of us, even from an early age. The little self. The belief that, oh my heavens, there's this great big world out there, and it's beating me down, and there's just this little me. Little me, I can only do so much. I have these big dreams, and the world is saying no to my dreams, right? That's the little self. The whole you and me against the world, right? That's the little self. Us taking on the giant of the world that has broken our dreams. The next self that he talks about is the inflated self. So in order to counter our little self, what do? We puff up. We learn more. We get more money. We do more. We do things that inflate us to the point where we hope the world will notice us now because we have inflated ourselves. I remember that stage of my life. Thankfully, it was quite a while back, but I remember that stage of my life. And it's that sense of the inflated self never gets inflated enough, right? We've all known those people that have plenty, and it's never enough, like Ebenezer Scrooge. There is no such thing as rich enough, only poor enough. That's the inflated self. The third self is the self that keeps toggling back and forth between the two, and he calls it the guilty self. Because when you're, right, because I love a little laughter of recognition, that's great. The guilty self, he talks about how when we see ourselves as the little self, we become resentful, right? The world has broken my dreams. It's stolen those dreams from me. We're angry at the world. We blame the world. And that sense of unforgiveness from us to the world produces a guilt in us because we carry it. Then you have bouncing back to the inflated self, where the goal is to get enough that I feel better than you. And so if I can inflate to the point where I know I'm better than somebody else, that sense of always having to tell somebody I'm better than you is another thing that we carry as guilt, right? That judgment of other people. So you bounce back and forth between those two, trying to find your place in the world, and you end up feeling guilty no matter which side you're coming from. Does this feel familiar to anybody besides me? Okay, all right. Fourth step, when we really start growing, right? It's the self-concept. So we're all smart, spiritually, psychologically progressive. We know things, right? And so we start assessing our own self and looking to create that self that we put into the world. So what happens often here is we believe that we have succeeded in crafting the self for the world to see and for us to kind of carry. And when we go back to our unity principles, like here, this is about the things that we think, right? The concepts that we hold, because we know that our perceptions help create our reality. But the thing is, you can't really create yourself through your perceptions. You only experience the self through your perceptions. Yourself is already created. So anything that we self-create is just a way of filtering a much bigger picture of the self. So it's still not accurate. It's the illusion that we hold. It's the worldly image that we hold of who we really are. Because the true self, the fifth and final one, the true self, and most of you already know this, the trouble is trying to live it, right? You're a child of God. That is the true self. We come into this world, and the world tries to tell you, oh, you're nothing, and we need to build you up, and you need to learn, and you need to gain, and you need to get and do. But the reality is, you come into this world in a state of infinite possibility. There is nothing that you can add to who you are to make yourself more. There's nothing you can do to make yourself less. All you can do is find expressions that either align with that self or don't. Does that make sense to folks? Okay. So, one of the issues with this, as I said, many of us in the room know this already. Living it gets to be trickier, gets to be problematic. Because when the world rises up in front of you and smacks you around, sometimes you don't feel like a child of God. And you want to take on the world, and then you feel little. And then you make yourself feel better by inflating, and then you feel guilty, right? So there's some self-care things that I want to go over, and this was from Elizabeth Scott, who's a PhD. She's an author, a workshop leader, educator, and so forth. And she wrote about 5 types of self-care in our lives. So the first type of self-care, as a reminder of ways to remember who our true self is. Number 1 is physical care, physical self-care. Are you exercising? Are you eating healthfully? Are you keeping hydrated with water? Water. Are you getting yourself access to health care? If you don't have access, are you seeking a way? Are you getting enough sleep? These are all ways to do physical self-care. The next one is mental self-care. Do you spend time in nature? If not physically in it, at least looking at it. Do you take time to enjoy your hobbies? Do you take time to learn new things? How about meditation, mindfulness, being present, and going to therapy? These are all good ways to have a mental self-care. Emotional self-care, setting boundaries. Setting boundaries is huge, and often we don't do it, especially if we're a people pleaser. Expressing your feelings, not holding them in. And that doesn't mean like aggressively attacking people with your feelings, but letting them out, because bottling them up is not healthy. And doing things that make you happy. When's the last time you just did something because you just wanted to do something that made you happy? Social self-care, spending time with people you love, volunteering, maintaining interpersonal relationships. And I really love that verbiage of that, because relationships don't maintain themselves. We have to consciously maintain them. And having healthy relationships. Are you looking at relationships that are unhealthy patterns? Can we reevaluate those or exit that relationship? Finally, spiritual self-care, reflecting on your values. You spend time doing that. Finding your purpose. Daunting, right? Engaging in religious practices. And connecting with nature. And expressing gratitude. And that brings me to that little half sheet that should have been in most of your bulletins. There's a half sheet in there that looks something like this. There's a poem on one side, and on the other it should say at the top, 21 Days of Gratitude. If you don't have one, there are extras out there. Does anybody need one of those? Because I would really like for you to start with it right now. So can somebody run and get some of those? I'd appreciate it. We need at least 1 or 2, looks like. Thank you, Debbie and Pat. So let me talk about what we're looking at here. So on the side that says 21 Days of Gratitude, you will see 3-week columns and then a daily column or a daily row. So for today, we would be that upper left side, week 1, that first Sunday. And what I want you to do, and even if you already have a gratitude practice, I want you to do this in addition to that gratitude practice. Who has a regular daily gratitude practice already in place? Excellent. You're ahead of the curve. So this will just add to being part of that. Again, raise your hand if you still needed one of these. I know we needed a couple down front, some on the aisle there, one in the middle. So you're going to write down just a single word or concept. A single word or concept for today. And this is something that is best done in the morning going forward. But again, that upper left spot, you want to write down a single word or concept of something you are grateful for. What are you grateful for? It doesn't have to be earth-shattering. It can be, I had food. It could just be food. Breathing, shelter, clothing, car, friends, unity, money, whatever it is you're grateful for. Write that down. Now, one of the tricky parts about this is each of these blanks over the next 21 days has to be a different thing every day. There are no repeats allowed. I know. How on earth can I come up with 21 different things that I am thankful for? Oh no, you can. And if you have I know a lot of people have a gratitude journal. I would say start with your word here and then just move right on to your journal. Let this be your jumping off place for your other gratitude work. So again, starting today, you're going to fill in that spot today, here and now. If you have not done so already, grab a pen, write down something you are grateful for. And again, if you really have to dig deep, if you're just in the deepest of despair and you cannot think of a single thing, it's like, well, you're probably hearing my voice, or you may be seeing my mouth move. Like, those are great things. Our senses are great. Anything that you can say, I'm thankful for this, is great. Gratitude is such an excellent tool for just bringing us up in general. There have been so many studies, and I'm not going to take the time to quote them now, but so many studies that show the benefits of gratitude, daily gratitude practice, how it makes you more optimistic, it gives you better health outcomes, it's all of the things that seem so unrelated, but something as simple as finding daily gratitude can shift your entire life. As Michael sang in our opening song, I see the blessings of the past. It's time to requalify. Let's not forget, but learn to forgive. God knows we got to try. It's my responsibility to heal the wounds in me. Compassion, faith, and hope, and love, and truth will set us free. It's funny, Michael and I were talking about some of the concepts of this talk earlier in the week, and he turned to me and he just said, metaphysician, heal thyself. And I was like, well, yeah, kind of, yeah. Because when we heal ourselves, that's how we work toward healing the world. Because I know right now so many of us look around and the little self comes up because the world is in so much hurt, right? We look around and we see pain, we see division, we see anger, we see all of these things, and we're like, it's too much. I'm so little, it's little me. But you're not. Remember your true self. Your true self is infinite possibility. I want to close out with it's a poem by Mary Oliver. I've used Mary Oliver's poetry before. This one's called The Journey, and it's on the backside of your 21 Days of Gratitude as well, if you want to use it later. So if you want to just settle in, you can think of this like a short meditation. One day you finally knew what you had to do and began, though the voices around you kept shouting their bad advice, though the whole house began to tremble and you felt the old tug at your ankles. Mend my life, each voice cried, but you didn't stop. You knew what you had to do, though the wind pried with its stiff fingers at the very foundations, though their melancholy was terrible. It was already late enough, and a wild night, and the road full of fallen branches and stones. But little by little, as you left their voices behind, the stars began to burn through the sheets of clouds, and there was a new voice, which you slowly recognized as your own, that kept you company as you strode deeper and deeper into the world, determined to do the only thing you could do, determined to save the only life you could save. It's my responsibility to heal the wounds in me. Compassion, faith, and hope, and love, and truth will set us free. And so it is. Amen, Amin, Aho, Ashe, Namaste.